A new year, time for resolutions. Well, fortunately, this talk is not about New Year's resolutions, so don't have to worry about that. Yes, in case anybody was wondering. No, but how about a philosophy that's simple, can be embraced by anyone, and can enhance any religion, spiritual practice, and if you're an atheist, doesn't interfere with your worldview at all. This philosophy aligns well with UU principles. In fact, you can say it's UU-ish in nature. It's not a simple philosophy, but it is a way to purport yourself in your everyday actions and interactions with each other. And I have to give a shout out to my wife, Karen, for this next line. It's a covenant with yourself and with the relationships with others. This philosophy is a Toltec philosophy that dates back about 3,622 years ago. No, about 3,000 years ago. And it was brought to the West by Don Miguel Ruiz, who is from the Toltec lineage and is a master of the Eagle Knight lineage. And thank you, Don Miguel Ruiz. There's actually now a fifth agreement, skepticism, which we should all hold highly, but we'll just discuss the four. So this philosophy arises from the same universal truths as so many esoteric religions do, yet it is simply a way of living without dogma. The founder, who was probably high on mushrooms or peyote or some hallucinogen, ayahuasca perhaps, not to make light of that, he probably was when he came up with this, that life is an illusion. Thus, the opening song of Both Sides Now. We live in a dream state, he said. Our true being is love and light. We live in a smoky mirror. The smoke is the dream, and the mirror is you, the dreamer. So what is this dream he's talking about? Well, it consists of all of society's rules, its beliefs, its laws, its religions, its cultures, its mores, its governments, its educational systems, social events, holidays, and hopefully I didn't miss anything on that, right? So it's a running theme that I personally have spoken about in many of my talks, and that is that we have adopted myths. And we've made these myths laws and ways of being, and have forgotten that we made them up, and they're not found in nature, but we've forgotten that. So none of these rules, customs, etc. were your choice initially. You were indoctrinated by parents, teachers, relatives, mentors, friends, religious leaders to buy into and all of this without ever giving an opportunity to question it until later on in life, which is probably why you're all here today, right? So the Toltecs called this domestication. And as soon as we agree to all this, it not only becomes a belief or faith, it becomes fact. And this belief system thus becomes a book of laws inside our heads that we live in, a guide regarding how we behave, how we act, how we react, how we perceive ourselves, and when we follow the rule book, and also how we perceive ourselves when we fail to follow our rules. And one by one, all of these agreements rule our waking dream of how we and others are supposed to be in society, right? Should not be a shock. Thus, we judge ourselves and others by many books of rules, cultural practices that we adhere to. We can easily become a victim of these through our own acceptance when we fall short It's not good enough, we're not good enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not worthy of love, etc. These are the agreements that we've come to believe in. All we all are, I dare say, have fallen victim to this. And here's a simple example of this in Iran, where it's decided that women's hair somehow has a sexuality and a sensuality to it, that if you're a modest person, you must cover your head. This agreement could easily have been for men, in which case I wouldn't have anything to worry about. So I'm good there. But tomorrow they could make a rule that you don't have to cover your head, and it wouldn't affect the religion one bit. So these are agreements that people have come to meet as fact, but it's not fact, it's just myth, it's just a story we've agreed upon. And if that's not bad enough, the planet's dream is a lot more insidious. In the planet's dream, it's normal for humans to suffer, engage in war, live in fear, and have emotional drama and upheaval. Succinctly, we live in a world of myths that we believe are truth. And imagine telling someone in a religion that the basis of that religion might be a myth. You would not get a welcoming reply. And some of these myths are valuable. We've made them into laws, how we can live together, and others keep us from finding who we are authentically. We search for truth, justice, and beauty, and yet we struggle to find it. Thus, I give you the 4 agreements. It's a way of looking at yourself and the world around you. Let us create new agreements, not based on fear and self-loathing and how we are supposed to behave, but rather based on love. There are only 4 agreements, although I did mention a 5th earlier. They are relatively quite simple, though they aren't easy to practice. They have been my go-to for the last 35 years of my life, and yet I fall short when I'm triggered, as we all get triggered. But I bring myself back to a grounding place when I remember these 4 agreements. And so they're always close to me, but it is a battle. So the first agreement, if you will, and one I adhere to 100%, be impeccable with your word. Say only what you mean and mean what you say. Avoid using words against yourself or to gossip about others, which is very much a you principle. Use the power of your word toward the direction of truth and love. Words can destroy yourself, your integrity, or destroy the lives of potentially millions if those words are spoken by people in power. Gossip has become the main form of communication in many societies. We hear our elders do it, and so we, by default, make that an agreement that that's okay to do. Time to toss that agreement aside and make your word something you won't regret and others can count on. You can't rely on a person whose word cannot be taken genuinely. Don't be the boy who cried wolf in your actions or in your words. Be a person of integrity. Simple rule of life. Agreement number 2. Don't take things personally. One I fail at time and time again, but true. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say is a projection of their own reality, their own dream, not yours. When you become immune to the opinion and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. Taking things personally can actually be regarded as the ultimate in selfishness by thinking everything is about you. It isn't. Remember, all people live in their own dream and carry out their own agreements. So when you take things personally, you become offended and you react and defend your beliefs and then conflict arises. If one says something that is hurtful, it is because it has touched on a personal wound that is a part of your dream. It is not what someone has said that hurts you. Rather, it's a self-inflicted wound you have not resolved. So please don't be addicted to suffering. When you see other people as they are without taking it personally, you can never be hurt by what they say. Someone can send you emotional poison, but if you don't accept it, it will do you no harm. Agreement number 3, also one that I have trouble with. Don't make assumptions. We have a tendency to make assumptions and then believe them as truth. Here's the scenario. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and we end up creating a whole new drama for naught. How often do we believe our partners or friends know what we think, so we don't need to say what we want, and then become hurt when the needs aren't met? Humans have the need to justify everything, to explain and understand everything in order to feel safe. Yet we have agreed it is not safe to ask questions, but assume that if people love us, they should know what we want and how we feel. We also make assumptions about ourselves and what we are capable or not capable of doing. So instead of doing that, ask yourself those questions. Am I capable of getting up here and doing a talk? Am I capable of running a marathon? Whatever it is. You won't know until you've asked yourself those questions. And the way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to simply ask questions. Find your voice to ask for what you want, for understanding, and for clarity. And finally, our last agreement. Always do your best. And for that one, I have done pretty well. This last agreement allows the first 3 to be ingrained habits. Always do your best. It doesn't matter if your actions succeed or fail. If you know you've gave your best effort, that's all that's needed. You can always try again if the outcome wasn't what you expected or hoped for. When you do your best, you learn to accept yourself and your mistakes. By doing your best, habits of misusing your word, taking things personally, and making assumptions will become weaker and weaker and less frequent with time. So always do your best. So let me conclude now with these words. Imagine living your life without the fear of being judged by others. You no longer rule your behavior by what others think about you. You are no longer responsible for anyone's opinion. You have no need to control anyone, nor does anyone need to control you. As the Toltecs teach, the reward is to transcend the human experience of suffering to become the embodiment of universal love